DeKalb County CEO Burrell Ellis and the Veterans Affairs Advisory Board recently hosted the 2012 Veterans Day program in the Manuel J. Maloof Auditorium, with the theme of One DeKalb, coming together to salute our military veterans of every era. The events featured special guest speaker Colonel Brent E. Bracewell of the Georgia National Guard. DCTV takes you now to this special presentation of the 11th Annual Veterans Day program as we say thank you and salute the brave men and women who protect and serve our country.
I'm blessed every time that I have an opportunity to stand up and introduce our Chief Executive Officer. Some people could say that the less that you say about a great man, the better. But I think we probably still need to highlight a few things before we bring up the leader of our most progressive and one of the largest counties in Georgia. We have to really thank Mr. Ellis for the leadership, the compassion in his leadership, which he directs outwards towards our veterans. And he is indeed an example of servant leadership. And that means a whole lot. Us veterans who serve through different combat eras, whether it be from World War II all the way down, we remember when we were in combat that our number one thing that we wanted to do was to bring our fellow man back with us safely. And I will tell you, throughout the coming era, we know that Mr. Ellis is going to bring us through this era safely. As an example of servant leadership, Mr. Ellis, I'm going to tell you ahead of time from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And us as veterans, we need to give our leadership here in this county a hand as we welcome our CEO.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Dr. Williams not only for your kind and generous introduction, but I want to thank you for your service, the service that you and so many other veterans have rendered to our nation, but also your service as chair of our Veteran Affairs Advisory Board. And in fact, I want to ask all of the members of the Veteran Affairs Advisory Board if you'll stand, because this is about you and what you put on for all veterans. Thank you so much. Before these men and women are seated, I want you to remain standing just for a moment. I want you to know that these are men and women who continue to be dedicated to service. They've served their nation and they continue to serve their county. They believe that it's important that we recognize the work of our veterans and recognize their service to the country and make sure that they are honored in the appropriate way and receive the benefits that they deserve and have earned. And so they are the conscience of this county. And so I just want to say thank you, because we're here today because of your efforts. We have this recognition and others, and we serve our veterans because you serve us. So thank you again so very much. Thank you. Let's give them another round of applause. And in addition to the members of the Veteran Affairs Advisory Board, we have many other veterans who are in attendance here with us today. Would you please stand and allow us to see who you are and be recognized as well? Thank you. And I want to recognize two of my partners in public service, Commissioner Jeff Rader and Commissioner Stan Watson, both of whom served in the Navy. Thank you for your service to our country and our county as well. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you so very much. I'm joined by a number of special guests today. Obviously, it's an honor to be here as we remember our veterans for the fine work they do and the services they've rendered to protect our freedoms here at home as well as abroad. Because of your commitment to ensuring the security of our country, we are able to enjoy liberties that we all hold so dear. And I want to ask if there's anybody talking on the phone or talking at all, that, you know, this is a solemn, serious moment. So let's, you know, cut phones off and let's do what we need to do, okay? I want to thank Congressman Henry Hank Johnson, congratulate you on your victory on Tuesday night. Thank you for your service to our country and to the citizens of District 4 and here in the state of Georgia, and thank you for being here today. I believe I see Mayor Donna Pittman from the city of Doraville. Thank you, Mayor Pittman, for being here. Mayor Bill Floyd from the city of Decatur, right here at home. Thank you for being here. Judge Clarence Seeliger, thank you for being here. I see our Clerk of Superior Court, Deborah DeBerry, thank you for being here. I see our State Representative, Coach Williams, Ernest Coach Williams, thank you, my friend, for being here, along with your lovely wife. Commissioner Sharon Barnes Sutton, thank you for being here today. Are there any other elected officials I may have overlooked? Thank you all. Let's give a round of applause for all of our elected officials. Thank you all. And in addition to the veterans, all of whom are here, our special guest speaker, who you'll hear from, and he'll be formally introduced, but Colonel Brigadier General-select Brent E. Bracewell. Thank you for your service and for being here today, Colonel Bracewell. Looking forward to hearing your remarks. Two of our special honorees, we have Dr. Wayne Odom here on behalf of the Reverend Dr. Charles Stanley, Senior Pastor of First Baptist Church of Atlanta. Dr. Odom, thank you so much. Stand up so we can see who you are and recognize you. Thank you so much. And please send our best to Reverend Dr. Stanley as well. And our very own Richard Stogner is here. Richard, I want you to stand up, and I'm going to tell everybody why I'm asking you to stand up momentarily, but thank you. Richard is our CEO, but Richard has a special commitment to providing essential services to DeKalb residents through his work with the USO. He is the chairman of the board in the USO here in Georgia, and that includes five area USOs, most notably the one at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. So thank you for your good work, Richard, on behalf of the USO. I want to also mention that Dr. Stanley's dedication to our servicemen and women is illustrated through his In Touch Ministries, his television and radio broadcasts. To date, In Touch Ministries has provided more than 100,000 free solar-powered handheld audio devices containing powerful sermons to our servicemen and women to help them combat depression and suicide. So I want to again thank you, Dr. Odom. Send our best to Dr. Stanley. Tell him keep up the good work through In Touch Ministries. I'd also want to recognize again Chairman Reverend Dr. Wayman Dwayne Williams and the members of the advisory board. Thank you for your ongoing efforts to ensure the voices of our veterans are heard and that their needs are continuously being met. Thank you all. Let's give them another round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Every November at this time, we as a country pay tribute to the brave men and women who put their lives on the line to protect our freedom and this great nation. Today, we commemorate a long-standing tradition in our country dating back to 1919, when President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day. Again, we also recognize the theme of this year's Veterans Day program, One DeKalb, coming together to salute our military veterans of every era, and the constant role this theme must play in our work as a community to ensure that veterans' needs are always met. When I think about the theme of this year's Veterans Day program, I'm reminded of a quote from President John Fitzgerald Kennedy. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. It's that same philosophy that President Kennedy lived by more than 50 years ago that will help DeKalb County and communities across this nation keep their promises, because taking care of veterans is not the charitable thing to do, it is the right thing to do. Today, we must live by those words and stand united in remembering our veterans for their selfless service to our nation, for putting their lives on the line every day to preserve the safety of our great nation, and for sacrificing time spent away from their loved ones and families to protect the freedoms that we all enjoy. In DeKalb County, we continue to reaffirm our commitment to all veterans who call our county home. And in DeKalb, our call to ensure that veterans have better access to services such as health care, filing claims, and treatment is ongoing, and we are committed to fulfilling that promise. Our level of commitment is measured not only by the level of the sacrifice and service of our veterans, and it is unacceptable for us to offer a level of service that is less than what they have so selflessly given to us. As we stand here today, right now, today, there are men and women still on the battlefield, risking their lives even now for our country. I am sure that all of our veterans remember what it was like being in the trenches and the expectations you had of your country when you returned home. It is my hope that as a county and as a nation, we continue to move in the direction of meeting those expectations with the same dignity and the same grace that you offered your service, because the debt owed to our veterans demands nothing less than full attention and full action. Thank you to each of you for your selfless sacrifice in protecting our great country and nation at home and abroad. May God continue to bless you, and may God continue to bless DeKalb County and the United States of America. Thank you all. Have a good day.
All right, let's give our CEO another hand. He's serious when it comes to veterans and about veterans business, and it's an honor to serve on the advisory board. Before we bring on Congressman Hank, we're going to ask that if you serve, please stand at this time. Let us applaud you at this time. It doesn't matter what, Air Force, Army, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard, the reserves. We want to applaud you for your dedicated and faithful service. Again, thank you. Thank you for your service, for risking your life in the defense of world freedom. And we do appreciate you this day and every day. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the Honorable Hank Johnson, U.S. Representative, Georgia's 4th Congressional District. Hank Johnson.
Good morning. The flag is our symbol of freedom. And before I go into my points that I want to make, I do want us to recognize that crisp color guard that just presented the colors to us. That was fantastic. There have been occasions throughout the course of the history of this country where the cause of freedom had to take a turn towards war. And nobody likes war. Nobody likes conflict. But as human beings, we have still, at this point, been unable to suppress those negative tendencies that lead to war: ignorance, greed, anger, those kind of base human instincts. That's something that we each have control over ourselves, but we can't control others. And so from time to time, when circumstances warranted, we've had to resort to bare-knuckled power of this country. And it has been our servicemen and women who we've called upon while we maintain the fort, if you will. We've called upon them to go out into the danger and confront the danger and defeat the danger so that we can be protected, so that our children can live the same life that we have lived, the same freedom. And so during the course of our history, with all of the conflicts, there have been deaths of our servicemen and women. And so every Veterans Day, Americans come together to remember those who have served our country around the world and in the name of freedom and democracy. The debt that we owe to them is immeasurable. Their sacrifices and those of their families are freedom's foundation. Without the brave efforts of all of the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen and their families, our country would not live so freely. We've come through a difficult part in the civil arena of our nation's history. It culminated just this past Tuesday with another opportunity for Americans to exhibit the freedom that is due us under the U.S. Constitution. And the choice was made. The choice was whether or not we stuck with our current civilian leadership, which, by the way, I respect the military's respect for civilian rule in this country. The civilians decided to stick with who had brung them to this point. And now it's time for us all to once again become one when it comes to our great nation. We've been torn and we've been tattered, but now is the time for us to come together. So today, right after the civilian victory, we honor the men and women who have ensured our ability to get to this point in our nation's history. And I want to thank you deeply from the bottom of my heart for all that you and your family have sacrificed so that we could be free. Give yourselves a hand. It's one of the reasons that I take my service on the House Armed Services Committee with a sense of honor and a sense of obligation to our veterans and their families. We have been at war, 2 wars, Iraq and Afghanistan. The Iraq War, Iraq, whichever you prefer. I like Iraq. The Iraq War has been brought to a close. America's involvement has ended. We are ending the war in Afghanistan. Our combat troops will be out by the end of 2014. And we have so many wounded warriors who have returned from both of those wars, plus we had 50,000 deaths in Vietnam. We never did honor those servicemen and women. And we actually did not recognize some of the trauma that they suffered and that they've had to suffer through quietly and alone since coming back from that war. things like post-traumatic stress, which was not recognized until recently as actually being a legitimate mental disorder derived from being in the service, in the fight. And so with the advancement of medical care, we have more men and women surviving injuries on the battlefield physically, and we have more who are coming back home. They are patched up physically and able to perform, but we've got to make sure that they are mentally treated, that they have treatment, recognition, and compensation for the damage to the psyche. Some are still having dreams of all of the killing and all of the suffering that they saw. And so my prayers and thoughts and my actions in Congress are with that truth in mind. And I want you to know that the United States government is taking the scenario, we're taking the problem of the deployment of our men and women in harm's way. We're taking that seriously, and we're not gonna treat you like we treated our Vietnam War veterans, who now we're finally starting to pay attention to. We're not going to do that. We won't ever do that again. And so today we honor those who have fallen, both during the war and afterwards. And we thank them for their service, and thank you for making it possible for us to be free and to be the kind of civilians that the framers of our Constitution imagined that we would be. With that, I will close. Thank you very much.